Imagine this. You are sitting in a cafe in New York City, or maybe London, or Tokyo. It doesn't matter. A stranger sits next to you and starts talking, and you understand every single word, every joke, every story, every emotion in their voice. You don't have to translate in your head. You don't have to ask them to repeat themselves. The words just flow into you, naturally, easily, like music you already know. Pause. Music swells softly. That moment, that feeling, is what millions of English learners around the world are chasing. And today, we're going to talk about how to actually get there. Not through boring textbooks, not through grammar exercises that make you fall asleep, but through something you are doing right now, listening to a podcast. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. If you are an intermediate English learner, if you understand some English but still feel frustrated, still feel like something is missing, then this episode was made for you. Because here's the truth. Most English learners study for years. Years. They memorize vocabulary lists. They practice grammar rules. They pass tests. But then, they watch a movie. Or they listen to a real conversation. And suddenly, nothing makes sense. The words are too fast. The accents are too strong. The slang is too confusing. And they think, what am I doing wrong? Well, here's the answer. They were training for the wrong thing. Reading English and listening to English are completely different skills. It's like training to swim by reading books about water. At some point, you have to actually get in. And that is exactly what podcasts help you do. Today, we're going to go deep. We're going to talk about why your brain struggles with listening. We're going to explore how podcasts are scientifically and emotionally the best tool for fixing that. And we're going to give you a real plan, a path, to become a confident English listener. Stay with me, because what comes next is going to change the way you think about learning. Here's something most people don't know. For most of human history, most of it, there were no textbooks. Think about that for a second. For thousands of years, humans passed down language, stories, knowledge, history, and wisdom in one way only. By listening, sitting around fires, gathering in temples, standing in crowded marketplaces. Humans learned by hearing words spoken out loud. The ancient Greeks didn't write down the wisdom of Socrates, one of the greatest thinkers in history. His student Plato listened to him for years. He absorbed his teacher's ideas through conversation, through listening. The great storytellers of West Africa, the griots, they were the living libraries of their people. No books, no written records, just voices, just stories spoken aloud, passed from one generation to the next for centuries. And here's the surprising part. Modern neuroscience, the study of how the brain works, confirms what ancient humans already knew by instinct. The human brain is hardwired for listening. When you hear a story spoken aloud, something extraordinary happens. Your brain doesn't just process the words. It actually simulates the experience. Scientists call this neural coupling. Your brain begins to mirror the speaker's brain. You feel what the story is describing. You see it. You almost live it. This is why a great audiobook can make you cry on a bus. Why a powerful podcast can change your mind. Why a passionate speaker can move thousands of people to action without a single visual. Sound, voice, story. These are the oldest and most powerful learning tools in human history. And you, right now, are using them. Okay, let's get into it. Let's talk about why listening to English feels so hard, even when you already know a lot of vocabulary. And honestly, the reason might surprise you. The first reason is called connected speech. When you learn English in a classroom, words are taught one by one. Slowly, clearly, separately. I am going to the store. But in real life, no one speaks like that. A native speaker says, I'm going to go to the store. It all blurs together. Words crash into each other. Sounds disappear. Whole syllables vanish. If your brain has never heard that before, it panics. It can't find the pattern. It gets lost. This is completely normal. It's not a sign you are bad at English. It's a sign you have been practicing the written form of English, not the spoken form. The second reason is processing speed. When you read English, you can slow down. You can reread a sentence. You can pause and think. When you listen, the words keep coming. There is no pause button in real life. And if you fall behind even for 2 seconds, if you miss one phrase, your brain starts working overtime trying to catch up. And then you miss the next thing. And the next. It becomes a spiral. The third reason is emotional pressure. This one is powerful, and it is rarely talked about. When many learners sit down to practice English listening, they feel anxiety, fear of not understanding, fear of looking stupid, fear of failure. And here's what's fascinating. Anxiety physically affects your comprehension. When you are stressed, your brain releases cortisol, the stress hormone. And cortisol actually interferes with language processing. It makes it harder to focus, harder to remember, harder to understand. The more pressure you put on yourself to understand every word, the harder listening actually becomes. But that's not even the most shocking thing. The solution to all three of these problems is the same. You need relaxed, repeated, enjoyable exposure to real spoken English. You need a podcast. Let me paint you a picture. You are walking to work, or cooking dinner, or lying in bed before sleep. And instead of silence or music, you press play. A voice begins to speak about history, about psychology, about human stories that make you feel something. And slowly, without even realizing it, your brain starts to adapt. This is the magic of podcasts. And here's why they work so powerfully for language learning. Reason 1. Repetition without boredom. Language acquisition, the scientific term for how we absorb a new language, requires massive amounts of input. Linguist Stephen Krashen, one of the world's leading experts on language learning, developed what he called the input hypothesis. His research showed that we acquire language best when we receive large amounts of comprehensible input, language that is just slightly above our current level. Podcasts give you that input every single day, without drilling, without stress, without sitting at a desk. 20 minutes a day, that's all. Over weeks and months, your brain quietly begins to rewire itself. Reason 2. Real natural speech. Podcasts expose you to real spoken English, with all its rhythm, speed, emotion, hesitation, and humanity. You hear contractions. You hear idioms. You hear the way real people think out loud. This trains your brain for actual conversations, not just for tests. Reason 3. Emotional engagement equals better memory. Here's something extraordinary about how memory works. We remember almost nothing that bores us, but we remember almost everything that moves us emotionally. When a story makes you curious, when it makes your heart beat a little faster, your brain releases dopamine. And dopamine acts like a highlighter in your brain. It signals, this is important. Remember this. A great podcast triggers that response again and again. You are not just practicing English. You are encoding it into your long-term memory through emotion. Reason 4. Low anxiety environment. You can pause. You can rewind. You can listen again. No one is watching you. No one is judging you. There is no pressure. That low anxiety environment allows your brain to absorb language naturally, the way children absorb their first language. With curiosity, with joy, without fear. Pause. Let the ideas settle. Music softens. Think about that for a second. You have been working so hard, studying so seriously, and sometimes the answer is simply, relax and listen more. Every language learner knows this experience. For months, maybe years, English feels like climbing a mountain. Hard, exhausting, always uphill. And then one day, something shifts. You are watching a video, or having a conversation, or listening to a podcast, and suddenly, without warning, you understand. Not just the words, the feeling behind the words, the rhythm of the language, the humor, the sarcasm, the emotion. Linguists call this the breakthrough point, the moment when passive understanding becomes active fluency. And here's the beautiful truth about that moment. You cannot force it. You cannot rush it. You can only create the conditions for it to happen. And those conditions are simple: consistent input, emotional engagement, low stress, real language exposure. In other words, everything that a great podcast gives you. There is a woman named Benny Lewis, a famous polyglot, a person who speaks many languages fluently. He once said something that stayed with me. He said, "Fluency is not a destination. It's a direction." Every podcast you listen to, every episode, every story that moves you, you are moving in that direction. You are not failing. You are not stuck. You are in the process. Trust it. Let's zoom out for a moment, because this isn't just about passing a test or getting a job, though those things matter. This is about something bigger. English today is the closest thing humanity has ever had to a universal language. Over 1.5 billion people speak it as a first, second, or third language. It is the language of science, technology, diplomacy, cinema, and global culture. When you improve your English listening, you don't just improve your language skills. You gain access to the world's conversations. You can listen to a TED Talk by a Nobel Prize winner. You can understand a political speech that shapes world history. You can watch a documentary about ancient civilizations in their full, emotional, spoken glory. You can laugh at an American comedy show. You can feel the weight of a British historical drama. You can understand people from every corner of the planet in their most natural, human form. And that is genuinely extraordinary. Okay, we've talked about the why. Now let's talk about the how. Here is a simple, practical system for using podcasts to dramatically improve your English listening. Step 1. Choose the right level. Don't start with fast, complex podcasts. Start with material that is slightly above your current level, what Krashen called I+1. You should understand about 70 to 80% of what you hear. That sweet spot is where real learning happens. Step 2. Active listening versus passive listening. There are two ways to use podcasts. Passive listening is what you do when you're cooking or commuting. You listen without stopping. You absorb rhythm, speed, and vocabulary naturally. This is powerful for building intuition. Active listening is when you sit down, focus, and really work. You pause after each section. You ask yourself, what did I just hear? What was the main idea? You rewind if you missed something. You look up one or two key words. Both are important. Mix them into your week. Step 3. The shadowing technique. This is one of the most powerful tools in language learning, and almost no textbook teaches it. After you listen to a section of a podcast, try to repeat it out loud. Try to copy the speed, the rhythm, the emotion of the speaker. This is called shadowing, and it connects listening to speaking in your brain in an incredibly powerful way. Step 4. Consistency over intensity. 20 minutes every day beats 3 hours once a week. Your brain builds language the way a muscle builds strength, through small, regular, consistent effort. Make podcasts part of your daily life. Not homework, not studying, just a habit, a pleasure. Step 5. Emotionally engage. Choose podcasts about topics that actually interest you. History, science, true crime, philosophy, sports, business. It doesn't matter. When you care about the content, you listen better. You remember more. You improve faster. I want to speak directly to you now. Not as a teacher, not as an instructor, as someone who understands what it feels like to be between languages. To feel like you are almost there, but not quite. Learning a language is one of the most human things you can do. It is an act of courage. You are choosing to be vulnerable, to make mistakes, to sound imperfect, in a language that is not the one your mother's saying to you. That takes bravery. And every time you press play on a podcast, every time you sit with the discomfort of not understanding every word, but you keep listening anyway, you are doing something remarkable. You are growing. Not just your English. You are growing. Because language is not just communication. Language is access. Language is connection. Language is the bridge between your inner world, your thoughts, your dreams, your humor, your pain, and the rest of humanity. Pause. Music swells slightly. There is a beautiful concept in Japanese called kaizen. It means continuous improvement. Small steps. Every day. No giant leaps. Just quiet, steady, daily growth. That is what this journey is. You will have days when English feels easy, and days when it feels impossible. You will have conversations that flow, and conversations where you feel lost. But every single day, if you keep listening, your brain is building something. Quietly, patiently, like a cathedral being built stone by stone over decades. You will not see it being built, but one day, you will look up, and it will be there. So here is what we covered today. We talked about how humans have always learned through listening, since ancient fires and storytelling circles. We explored why your brain struggles with English listening, connected speech, processing speed, and emotional pressure. We discovered why podcasts are scientifically and emotionally the most powerful tool for language improvement. We walked through a practical daily system you can start using today. And we remembered, this journey is not just about English. It is about you, your voice, your connection to the world. This episode moved you, if it taught you something, if it made you feel like you are not alone in this journey, then share it with someone who needs it. And come back. Because every week, we explore powerful stories, human stories, that will teach you English and change the way you see the world. This is your podcast, your classroom, your community. Now press play on the next episode.